Welcome to Mecum Presents On the Move, brought to you by State Farm. It's the show geared toward keeping you up to speed with the latest auto news, event coverage, and expert industry insight. Now, here are your hosts, Matt Avery and John Kraman.
Hey, and welcome to another On the Move. In today's show, John, we are going to be diving deep into the results of Dana Mecum's 36th Original Spring Classic. This is Mecum's 9-day flagship event, and boy, is there a lot of news to get into. Now, before we do, we are kicking off a busy summer schedule of you and I attending some automotive events outside of Mecum Auctions. So let's kind of give our listeners a preview of our June schedule, starting with, I know you and I are revved up to be headed back again to Bloomington Gold Corvettes in Camaros. John, this is a big year for the Bloomington Gold team. They are celebrating 50 years of the event. It's going to be taking place June 2nd through the 3rd, and I know you in particular, being a Corvette enthusiast, are so excited to be there.
Well, it's the 1-2 punch, Matt. The fact that Camaro is now included at Bloomington Gold, you being kind of the tip of the spear in the Camaro world, and you mentioned me being a Corvette nut. I own 3 of them. And Guy Larson, the guy that runs Bloomington Gold, good friend of ours, good friend of Mecum as well, has got you and I very busy down there in a variety of different chores. So for those of you that are down there at Bloomington Gold, be sure to say hello to either Matt or myself. We'll be representing Mecum, as I mentioned, in a variety of roles. We are also heading out together out to Los Angeles. The Motor Press Guild is the LA-based auto press group, and they're doing their annual drive day. That's June 6th. It's on a Tuesday. I'm very proud to say that Mecum Auctions and Motor Trend are co-sponsoring that event this year, and you and I will be out there once again for our second year. What are your thoughts on that event coming up?
Well, like you said, John, we look forward to that event. And for those who are unaware, we'll give a little bit of context for exactly what the Motor Press Guild is. The MPG, as it's known, is one of the large regional automotive groups that connects working journalists with PR professionals in the automotive industry. So it's a great opportunity for you and I to be able to catch up on the latest new car news, as well as get behind the wheel of some of our favorite models in showrooms. And the location is gorgeous out there on the West Coast, and really looking forward to our time there. Now, also, John, coming up in June, Mecum returns to Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, 3-day auction, June 8th through the 10th. No television there this year, but you can always go to Mecum.com and stream all of the action, gavel to gavel. And, you know, I just want to do another shout out. I mentioned it previously. Jim Wanger's godfather, the GTO, of course, has passed at age 96. His memorial will be at the Peterson Auto Museum in Los Angeles on Saturday morning, June 10th. Public is invited to that, by the way, if you're LA-based, coming out to the event. I've been asked by Jim's nephew, Gordon Wangers, to say a few words, a few memories of Jim. I have many, so I'm going to have to kind of cut down the list to keep it relatively short. But what an honor to go to the Peterson and to represent Mecum at that event. Now, while I'm taking care of business there, Matt, you're heading off on the Hot Rod Power Tour this year. It's running June 12th through the 16th. Tell us what's happening there with you.
Oh, man, John, I am revved up to be joining over 6,000 other participants for what is billed as the ultimate summer road trip. It is 5 days of back-to-back cruising action. This year, we are kicking things off at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, and then making our way through the Southeast, finally ending on day 5 at the Bristol Motor Speedway. And I am so revved up to do it, John, and I'm so revved up to be behind the wheel of one of the latest Mecum Auctions marketing vehicles, a 2023 Durango SRT 392.
Nice.
So, of course, listeners, if you see me or the Durango out there, be sure to give a wave, come up and chat, and share your favorite Mecum moment.
Mecum staff is hard at work as we speak, Matt, at the Mecum headquarters in Walworth, Wisconsin. They are preparing the facility for what's being billed as the world's largest road art auction. That's going to run June 20th through the 25th at the Mecum headquarters in beautiful Walworth, Wisconsin. And as Dana Mecum likes to talk about from time to time, a beautiful resort area as well as this amazing event. And then I'll be finishing out my June 20th through July 1st down in Springfield, Illinois, at the GTOA, that's GTO Association of America, the National Convention event, which Mecum is sponsoring that as well, and I will also be speaking on behalf of Mecum Auctions as that event. So both you and I have got a very, very busy June cranking up just the way we like it.
And of course, John, it's never too early to look even into July. Mecum is going to have 2 auctions kicking things off in that month with a return to Kissimmee for another summer special taking place at the Osceola Heritage Park with 1,000 vehicles slated across the block during the days of July 6th through the 8th before Mecum's return to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Yep, and that's going to run July 26th through the 29th. And combining those 2 auctions, Matt, we will be presenting 5 days of television coverage, both on Motor Trend and on Motor Trend Plus.
All right, John. Well, I think that covers our looking out. Let's take a moment and let's actually look back because the last couple weeks have been busy for both of us, starting with you and I had the chance to attend the Midwest Automotive Media Association Spring Rally at the famed Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. Now, I mentioned earlier about the MPG West Coast Drive event. MAMA, as it's referred to, is the Midwest equivalent of a automotive group that connects, again, working journalists with PR professionals. And this is another great opportunity for you and I to see what is out there in the new car world. And we always love going to the spring rally. A little bit of background. MAMA was formed in 1991, has been around for several decades now. There's over 250 members. And the spring rally is arguably the crown jewel of the calendar year, where there's an opportunity to not only get on the track behind the wheels, some of these newest cars, but also street drives. There's off-road, a light off-road course to really be able to kind of get the flavor of the whole gamut of new cars that are out there. So we had a couple days, John, and I know there was a lot to take in. So let's kind of talk about maybe some of our favorite MAMA moments. What really stood out to you from our time up there?
Well, before we kind of maybe talk about some of the vehicles, I just want to do a shout out to what I think was probably one of the most successful events. There were 80 different models from a variety of manufacturers, pretty much anything that would be either brand new to the market or new within the last couple of years were there, with over 100 journalists present. Now, it was only the second year that I've ever been to that particular event. You've been there many more times than that. And it was way bigger than the previous event. What were your thoughts about the size and scope of it? Was this one of the biggest, or back in the past, has it been even bigger than this?
No, absolutely, John. This by far was one of the largest. And like you mentioned, I have been around MAMA for a while, over 15 years. And for a couple of those years, I was actually on the board and really got to see things on the inside and be a part of helping just to continue to grow the organization. But you hit the nail on the head. The current board did a fantastic job putting it all together. Great turnout from both working journalists as well as the automakers. Great collections of cars. And then, of course, I think my favorite part, John, great weather to be up there in Wisconsin in the hills of Elkhart Lake. So lots of good stuff going on. And I'll share, John, one of my favorite MAMA moments. I spent most of my time on the off-road course. Now, of course, keep in mind, this is a very light off-road course. The goal here for the days is not to put any of the vehicles to their max, but just to give you a flavor. And I got to say, John, I really enjoyed the off-road course. Jeep did a fantastic job of putting it together, and a large collection of vehicles were present, including one of the ones that I've been eager to get behind the wheel, and that is the 2023 Bronco Raptor, John. Man, this thing is a beast. It hardly even recognized it was off-road, just with all the suspension travel, and obviously it's super low speed, so no opportunity to really open up that EcoBoost with all 418 horsepower. But I was really impressed, John, with just how capable this vehicle is. It really speaks to what I'm going to call that Raptor heritage that Ford has cemented with their F-150 Raptor, and they continue to elevate what off-roading can be. I really came away impressed.
Well, that's a good point, Matt. You know, while you were doing your duty over at the off-road courses, I went in a different direction. I kind of split my time between taking some high-performance vehicles actually out on the great Road America race course, and also taking some of the vehicles out on the street drives that they had. So I just want to mention that I went away with some thoughts about how do I distill this for our listeners and sort of highlight what my takeaways were from this, with 3 really significant vehicles that I got a great great introduction to. I'm going to start with my number 3, and that was I had a chance, Matt, to ride along with a Ford Mustang suspension engineer for a street drive. Now, I didn't drive it, I was the passenger, but in a all-new 2024 Mustang Dark Horse. Had a chance to look under the hood, had a chance to get a good look at the car, and of course we were out maybe for about a 12 or 15 minute drive in it. Now let me fill you in on what the Dark Horse is. This is the all-new Mustang platform that's just now starting to get into production, and the Dark Horse is the top performance version. They have squeezed out 500 horsepower out of what's now a classic 5-liter Coyote V8, 6-speed manual transmission, an incredible all-digital and configurable dashboard layout. The whole interior is different. The exterior is different. The car has an exhaust note that must be heard to be believed. The acceleration is hard-hitting, and the mag ride suspension was surprisingly compliant on the street, but as he was shifting it into the different modes, you could clearly feel, seat of the pants, that things were really happening. Probably not going to be an inexpensive date, but right now that's going to be the leading edge for Ford performance in the Mustang lineup. And I can't wait to see the first one cross the block at Mecum. It won't be long now. All right, Matt, number 2 on my list, a little bit of a surprise. In fact, more than that. How about a flat out shocker? The Hyundai Elantra N. On the track. Absolutely, Matt, blew my mind. First of all, the styling of the car, it's a 4-door sedan, is exceptional. 6-speed manual transmission. The 2-liter turbocharged 4 putting out almost 300 horsepower, and it was an absolute monster on the racetrack. The braking, the handling, and the acceleration must be experienced. And with a base price in the low 30s, it could very well be the most bang for the buck of a performance sedan today. But at number 1, the top of my list, maybe just as much of a surprise, maybe even more so, a car you and I had talked about from time to time on the show. It's directly comparable to the Toyota Supra, and that would be the all-new Nissan Z with the 3-liter twin-turbo, 400 horsepower V6. Now, the one that they had up there was available for street drives only, but it was a 6-speed manual transmission, and I got a chance to spend about 15 minutes behind the wheel, and I came away, Matt, totally impressed with the combination of the heritage of the Nissan Z car. I could feel it, and I could see it in the way that the car, of course, operated, the way the car drove and shifted and handled, and just as much visually on the exterior and in the interior as well. And I just have to say, a real standout are the analog gauges, a triple gauge pod right at the top of the dashboard, angled slightly towards the driver, just like Nissan was doing 50 years ago, Datsun at the time. Absolutely a fantastic car. And again, we talk about bang for the buck once in a while. This is a car that starts in the $40,000 range, lightly equipped with a few key options. You're well under $45,000, and really, really glad I had a chance to drive that car. And I have an honorable mention. This was a street drive, a brand new Bronco Heritage. It was a 2-door. Got to take that out on the road, and the Heritage package absolutely blew my mind in regard to the aesthetics. It was black, white grille, white wheels, white stripes, white top, had the big wheels and tires, the Sasquatch package, but it was not the V6, not the 2.7 twin turbo that's an optional on the Bronco. It was the little turbocharged 2.3 liter with the 10-speed automatic transmission. I love the way it looked, and I love the way it drove. How about you?
I got to say, John, I also came away impressed from that little Bronco with that Heritage edition. And this is something, John, that you and I have identified early on, is that the Ford team really understood this model, and not only just pushing the bounds of the technology and the capabilities, but also celebrating where this model has come from. And seeing it up close, I agree with you. I came away impressed. It has a lot of charm and has a lot of charisma. And I also, John, had the chance to put it through its paces on the off-road course, not on the street drives. And I will say, if I had one teeny little complaint about the Raptor, it's that it had too many doors. It was the 4-door. And I love the fact that this Heritage Edition that we had the chance to spend some time with was a 2-door, makes it even more nimble and a little bit more agile through tight corners. But all in all, it's a great platform. Really excited to see what's in the future. And I also second your motion about the Nissan Z. Very impressive. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that segment heat up, as we both love those little pocket rockets.
Right on.
All right, John, well, let's transition. We've talked a little bit about where we've been, and of course, we have to talk about our time in Indianapolis during the month of May. Things are really revving up there between Dana Mecum's 36 Original Spring Classic and the 107th running of the Indy 500. John, let's start with the race because I know you were tuned in.
Yeah, it's kind of a tradition for me, Matt, that the day after the close of the Spring Classic at Indy, literally the next day is the last day of qualifying, known as Bump Day. So I spend the entire day at the track, and I have to say, shout out to our friends, both Bob Ashton and Jeff Stunkard. We all hung out there together and had a ball. And really came away, Matt, with an idea and an understanding of kind of who was fast, who was struggling, and then, of course, went home and watched the race on TV the next weekend. And you just have to do a shout-out. Joseph Newgarden, one of the top stars, never had won the Indy 500 before, driving for Penske in a Chevrolet, so it was all Chevrolet engine. So it was an all-American win. American driver, American race team with an American power plant with Chevrolet. Very exciting race. And man, they pulled it off. 107th running of the Indianapolis 500 now in the books.
All right, John. Well, like you said, almost taking place during that same time period is the Mecum auction. And man, John, this year, really, both of us came away impressed. All told, from May 12th through the 20th, it's a 9-day event. Yeah. This year, there was $113 million in sales with a 76% sell-through rate. And I got to say, John, you pointed something out about the top 10 list, which I think is remarkable. Mecum Auctions, we bill this as a muscle car auction. Right. And nowhere was that seen more clearly than in the top 10.
Well, and you got to give a shout out to what is number one, Matt. That was that 1970 Plymouth Cuda 440 Rapid Transit show car. It sold for $2.2 million. Now, I want to say that Mecum publishes on a lot of their vehicles, the catalog cars, what's referred to as an auction estimate. And the auction estimate on that car was $500,000 to $650,000, and it sold for multiples over that. Classic bitter battle. Now, keep in mind, only 4 Rapid Transit cars were sold. This is the only Cuda, and it was in original condition. Chuck Miller, the guy that built this car and painted this car back in the early 70s, in his 80s now, was present to tell us a little bit about the history of the car. He drove it up onto the auction block. And I just have to say, of course, this was all on our television coverage on Motor Trend. It was one of the key Mecum moments where you saw so much history coming together. The crowd got caught up in it, and it hammered for an amazing amount of money. Performance cars definitely in play in that top 10, Matt, with the exception of one car. At number 8 was a 31 Cadillac, but it was the V16 convertible coupe. It brought $660,000, but everything else was classic American performance. So, boy, just love it when a plan comes together. How about you? Any takeaways from that event?
One of the things, John, that jumped out readily to me is how fast our consignments are evolving and expanding. We talk about this a lot, about the definition of what a classic collector car is, and nowhere are we seeing that more clearly than on the Mecum red carpet. And I got to say, as part of my duties on site, overseeing Mecum on the Move and providing all kinds of additional storytelling and on-camera work. So I'm sure listeners have probably seen some of my videos if they follow Mecum social media or even our YouTube channel. But I had the chance to chat with Dave, who was the consigner and organizer of a world-class Fox body Mustang collection called the Meticulous Mustang Collection. And John, I gotta say, man, that these late model performance cars are quickly coming up in desirability. Dave had done a fantastic job of assembling one of the best Fox body low mileage collections. His stuff, John, had dozens of miles. It had clearly been preserved. He had done his homework in getting the best examples, and it reflected that when they crossed the block. So, John, I'm just excited to continue to see these newer eras of collector cars be present for the Mecum red carpet.
Yeah, modern classics, absolutely. It's funny you mentioned the collections. The collections at Mecum this year, almost $36 million in collections. Some of the other great collections were Hustle for the Muscle, the Apex collection, the Clyde Horse collection, and the Chris Bishop collection of 24 cars. All those collections, by the way, were a 100% sell-through. So bringing everything to the bottom line with just one real moment that I wasn't expecting. It is one of the cars that did make our top 10. In fact, at number 9, it was a 1967 Shelby GT350 Fastback. I'll go to the punchline first. It brought $632,500. I'll let that sink in for a moment. How does a 67 Shelby GT350, now we know 67, first year for the big block to be added, the 428 Police Interceptor in 1967, they called it the GT500, first year for the GT500. But here's what made that car special, Matt. It was a factory Paxton supercharged car, only one of 33 that were built. It was impeccably restored, it's red, and it was a 4-speed, and it brought an absolutely shocking amount of money. Why am I telling you this? Because the state-of-the-art investment-grade muscle cars that were present at this auction were bringing and continue to bring incredible amounts of money. This market, frankly, has never been stronger. Any takeaways from you on this auction?
John, I think you're right, man. As we move further into the calendar year, it's clear that collecting continues to be a popular pastime for enthusiasts, and we're continuing to see all kinds of different consignments be present, John. And I got to say also, too, like you identified, this is a long auction for Mecum Auctions, and it takes a lot of effort. So shout out to the Mecum management for just continuing to drive Mecum into the future, taking this event to the next level. It seems like just when you think it couldn't get any better, John, it continues to evolve and expand. Something else about one of the stars of the show, you mentioned that Rapid Transit CUDA, something really exciting. A lot of people had the chance to see that in person. And if you did not, our friend Bob Ashton has announced that it will be present for this year's Muscle Car and Corvette National. So it's just great to see these cars out and about. And John, of course, I know the question on everyone's mind is what's in store for next year? And all I can say is we'll have to wait and see.
You've been listening to Mecum Presents On the Move, brought to you by State Farm. For more information, visit Mecum.com. And join us again next time as we take you inside the world of muscle and collector cars and more.